Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining me for the session today. There has been a lot of buzz around DevOps, especially in this conference. And we're going to talk about one of the aspects in DevOps, which is service virtualization. So let's get started on that. A quick introduction about myself. I'm a partner with PwC. Leading the digital technology organization and focus more on digital solutions. We do a lot of work around mobile applications, service virtualization. As part of that comes the DevOps offering. So that's what my focus has been. DevOps, as we have seen, is a growing topic with a bigger growing solution within the marketplace, and a lot of organizations are more and more moving towards DevOps. So, but the big question is, how do we get started with DevOps? What is the starting point? I wish there was a DevOps solution for cutting that noise. All right, so we'll look at some of the challenges and how to overcome them. And then what is DevOps and what is the significance of DevOps in the software development lifecycle? And then how do you start with service virtualization? If that is a starting point, how do you start with that and make that a business case for introducing DevOps within the organization? And then we'll talk a little bit about the Service Virtualization Factory. It's a solution that PwC has developed. And it's mainly a center of excellence, and that helps expedite quality management and testing, as well as application development. And then looking at how do you build this solution effectively, so that it's not only in one place within the organization or one small group within your IT, it's adopted organization-wide. And then lastly, we'll look at how to use that service virtualization business case for the larger DevOps adoption model. So we have been, at least I have been doing software development for the last 15 years, and we have delivered software using the waterfall approach, then moved to the iterative development, and now to the agile. And we delivered successful software even before. This is not something, some of these challenges that we are going through are not new. We had some of these challenges before also. But why DevOps is becoming a big in the marketplace? Why is it such that more and more organizations want to adopt DevOps? The way I look at it is there are two reasons. One is business wants to roll out more and more features faster to the market. We have shorter time to market. And then one of the other thing is that we still have the same resources. The IT budgets have not become bigger. And we have to deliver the same amount of solutions in short span of time with the same resources. So, and that's where DevOps comes to help. If you look at some of the big challenges that I have seen typically our customers face are the systems are not available. You know, sometimes you have a dependency on the back-end systems, or you have parallel teams working together. There's one team which is, for example, working on a mobile application, but there's an API team which is parallelly developing the API, which means the mobile team doesn't have the connection to the backend system. So how would they keep developing their app in the absence of those APIs? So that's a big challenge. How do you overcome that? Then we know that with introduction of mobile, and I see a lot of us have, 5 years back, if I have to go to a conference, I would see more laptops within the audience. But now there's more and more mobile devices, right? So we want information access on our devices, and we don't have patience to wait for a longer time to get this information. We want that information at the fingertips, and we want it fast, which means you have to deliver high-quality applications, high-quality products. And if you fail to deliver that, you lose your users. And that could cause a lot of money to the business, to the organization. And the other piece of that is, if you want to test, you need a lot of infrastructure to keep testing and delivering a high-quality product. Now, we all know that getting an infrastructure up and running is not easy for each and every environment, for every possible teams. So you share those resources. And if you're sharing resources, means there's a constraint, and you could lose. Sometimes you don't have these environments available, or the cost is so high, you don't want to make multiple environments available. So you want to contain those costs. And we talked about faster time to market, which is very important. We talked about scalability. You want these applications to scale. The business may roll out the first pilot project with focused on a set number of users. If it is successful, they want to roll out to a bigger audience, bigger set of users. And lastly, the teams work in silos. We talked about that a little bit. So with these challenges, we are operating in the IT environment today. So how do you overcome some of these challenges? We have seen these before. This is not something new that I'm talking about. But what I would like to do is focus today on one of the areas over here, which is service virtualization. How do you use virtualization techniques to actually help with your development lifecycle, automate some of that, and reduce your time to market? So what is DevOps? And this is, and let me say that I'm focusing more on the dev side of the DevOps. There's an ops part of it, which is not here, which is a different discussion. Today, since we are talking about service virtualization, this is more focused on the dev part of the DevOps. It's a change in the mindset for the development team, for the quality and even the product owners, for the business teams, on how do you start thinking through your application or your product that you're building, and how do you roll out these products into the market space. And using some certain set of tools and technologies to possibly automate your software development pipeline, and that would create a win-win situation for you, because now you are able to roll out your product faster to the market. You are able to provide high-quality product. And if you see over here on the slide, what we have is you start from the build, and then you go all the way through the operate phase, right? And what is the one key thing over here which I'm highlighting, especially given the topic is service virtualization, is focused on virtualizing services and trying to expedite your development lifecycle. So if I have to take a scenario where we are having a team put together which is focused on building an application, and this is a complete new application that you're building for the business, and you have to connect to a backend system, right? And there are APIs to be developed along with this, so you have parallel development going on. So you start with the concept of creating virtual services to enable the development team use these virtual services, so as they are developing, they know what is the response that they're going to get from the backend systems. And they can start building their app using test-driven development techniques. So when I say test-driven development techniques, what does that mean? You introduce code coverage by introducing unit tests within your code. And as you do that, you will see a big difference in how you are able to expedite your development. So at the end of the day, when the developer has completed their development, they would check into the code, into the SVN, and you would use the continuous integration process to compile this code, run through the unit test, and provide feedback to the developer on what are the unit test cases that have not passed, or where are the unit test cases, which unit test cases are failing, based on when they merge the code with the other team members. So that's one aspect to it. You are able to provide early feedback to the developer, and hopefully they are able to take that feedback and fix the code. So the issues that you would have discovered during your product quality phase or your testing phase, you are able to address those issues earlier during the development phase. The second aspect to it is, once you have done the continuous integration and you deploy the code into the testing environment, you could possibly run through a set of automated regression test cycles, so that, and again, going through this virtual services, even though your backend systems are not available or the APIs are not ready for testing, you could run against these virtual services to run through a set of regression tests on a daily basis. So you're ensuring that you're identifying any issues or any defects earlier, and the testing team is able to bring that out for the dev teams, and the dev teams are able to fix those earlier. And so you have virtual services going through, developers checking in the code, going through a continuous integration environment, and deploying it into the next environment for testing and running through the test cycles. So that's a very high-level view of that. Now, with that, you are able to, but all that comes through a bit of change in the mindset of the development teams on how they do the development, a change in the mindset of the testing team on how they test the product, and a bit of change in the mindset for the product owners sometimes on how they validate the product on a daily basis, or maybe at the end of the sprints as they're going through the process. So is there a demand for this? You know, it looks great, but is there a demand? Yes, it has been proven, and a lot of clients and a lot of organizations have seen success with DevOps. And according to one of the Gartner studies, they have seen that the demand is increasing for DevOps, and it would be 21% higher in 2015. And they are expecting about 25% of the global 2,000 organizations would be leveraging DevOps in future. So certainly there is a business case. It has been proven in the industry, and more organizations are adopting DevOps, right? And it is easier to start your journey with start small, prove it out, and use that, leverage that small business case to bring DevOps within your IT organization or within your entire software development lifecycle. So if I have to start with service virtualization, where do I start? You could start small with one project and implement service virtualization. And once you have demonstrated value from that, you can take it to a larger scale, multiple projects. You can implement on a day-to-day to address some of the day-to-day challenges within your development teams. Start with one, grow to a bigger and larger group within your organization. So what are the big benefits of service virtualization? Certainly we heard about, I talked about how it can help developers and testers reduce their development lifecycle or testing life cycles, identify issues earlier in the phase, and address some of those challenges using virtualized services. It can It can also enable regression tests, as we looked at. Once you push the code from your dev environment to the test environment on a daily basis, you could run automated regression tests if so required. Then you can speed up the release cycles by doing that. You can possibly go with smaller releases, smaller features to the market. It is quite possible because your confidence level is high as you're releasing every sprint or maybe shorter release cycles because you have done a lot of testing upfront and you have identified those issues and addressed those issues. This may take some time, but once the development teams and the testing teams have worked together for a number of projects, they can easily identify how they can shorten those release cycles by taking advantage of service virtualization. And certainly it helps with managing the infrastructure costs. You don't need your test environments all the time. You can focus on one test environment, whereas during development or integration testing, you can still use these virtualized services and virtualized test data. One of the biggest advantages that I have personally seen besides these virtualization of services is that every time when you push the code into the next environment, the biggest challenge for testing team is getting the test data ready and available for running through all the tests, right? Because you are sharing the test environment and multiple teams are hitting against the same test data. And before the tester could get to that one test script, the test data is already gone and somebody else has used that. So you have to go back and reset all the test data back again. And if you have not done that, you may end up having some more challenges around the product quality. So with virtual services and test data virtualization, you could address that problem very easily because any number of times you're hitting against the services, because it's a playback of the recorded service, you don't have to worry about losing the test data. And it solves one of the biggest challenge that the testing team or the product quality team has today. And the other one is provide the flexibility. If you have the backend system available or not, you can still run through your testing. And finally, because of all these, excuse me, because of all these benefits you have achieved and not requiring all the backend systems, you are cutting down on a lot of cost and saving on that. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong one. So very quickly, what is PwC's solution on service virtualization? Basically, it's a center of excellence. We call it a service virtualization factory. So any new project that we start, what we do is we have a DevOps team that enables the development team with virtualized services. Because every new team that gets into the project and they're working with a new client and within a new organization, these concepts are new. And for any client or organization to get up to speed with these needs a lot of background on how the service virtualization would work, what are some of the leading practices that you need to put in place, and what are the nuances of service virtualization that you need to be aware of. One of the big challenges that I always run across clients, I get this question all the time. You're talking about recording a service and playing it back, which means I have to have this service in place, and I need to have the test data in place. And yes, if you do it the traditional way, yes, you need to do that. But if you use config management, you can overcome that challenge also. You can build these recordings of the services, and you can add your test data with help of config management. And there are some good leading practices around that to address that challenge within your organization. And if you put those in place, you will be able to take any new service that even the API team is still building on those and help the development team get up to speed with that, and they can build against that, and the testing team can start testing against those. So that's what the CoE is, because they have these expertise, they have this knowledge, they come in with that, and they enable the development team, they enable the testing team, get them up to speed, and let them start doing the development and expedite your release cycles. We use, whether it's a distributed team, one of the reasons I wanted to put this slide over here is that some of the clients have told me, hey, we have global distributed teams and it doesn't work. No, it works. We have the teams doing the development in offshore. We have the teams who are doing the service virtualization also in offshore. They are distributed in different locations. You can easily work through that and get them enabled. It's about coming up with the right project set, building through that, and then planning it and enabling the team members. And if you put the right set of teams, you can, whether you have an onshore or offshore model, you can obviously get them up and running. So real quick, what are the big benefits of Service Virtualization Factory? This is, when I say factory, think about this more as a center of excellence. You have the right blend of team members. They have the knowledge about the product, the service virtualization product that you're using, and they have the knowledge about the systems and the back-end systems or the applications that you're working with. As PwC, we have teams which are very knowledgeable about the industry and some of the industry solutions. So they know the nuances of these solutions and they can help expedite that. We have experience doing this with multiple clients. So there's a good knowledge base that has been built, and you could do that likewise with the center of excellence that you would build within your organization. And as you are building this knowledge base and the learnings that you are getting over a period of time, you would also start building your set of leading practices that you want to implement as part of that, right? And last but not the least, we have delivery accelerators. I talked about the config management as one of them that we use with for new APIs that are all not existing, and how you can automate using that. Likewise, we have other delivery accelerators, solution accelerators that we bring to our clients, and you could build those likewise within the organization as you are building your center of excellence. In my, so that's all great. Now, how do I go about adoption of this model? You start small, come up with a POC project or a pilot project that you would identify. And as you're doing the pilot implementation, you would also look at some of the bottlenecks that you have come across as part of this implementation and address those bottlenecks. Conduct the SV service virtualization implementation. How do you go for the next project or the next big project? The most important aspect that I will emphasize over here is the change management. It is very important for you to understand how do you change the mindset of your development teams and your testing teams to start using virtualized services as part of your delivery pipeline. Because that's what is the biggest bottleneck, which is the adoption of these techniques within the organization. I'm not going to get into some of these next set of slides in details, but at a very high level, you have to establish the change management process. You have to establish a governance model, and that will bring success overall into your practices for DevOps. This is not limited to just service virtualization, but it's extended to the whole DevOps adoption model. From a consumer perspective, the development team who are actually consuming these virtual services, they need to be aware about how they can manipulate their development scripts to quickly move or point their environment or point themselves to virtual services, whether they are doing the mobile app development or web portal development. Likewise, if it is an API development team, they need to understand how to leverage the how to leverage the virtualized services, and if they are introducing a new version, how to make sure that the new versions of the virtualized services are also rolled out. Very quickly, I've been working very recently with one of the healthcare payer and provider. They have over 9.5 million plus members, and they have over 38 hospitals, and they provide a web portal for their members to look at all their medical records, to connect with the doctors, to take appointments, and so on. They introduced the mobile application, and with the introduction of mobile application brought a lot of challenges around, because mobile app was behind and the web portal was already there. The users were more and more looking at the mobile devices now, so they wanted to make sure that all these features are available on the mobile app, so the time to market was very fast. They had to roll out their features every 2 months. And how would they do that? And one of the big challenges was availability of the environments, because the web portal team was using the same environment for testing, the mobile team is using the same environment, whereas the API teams are building new services all the time. So we were able to, by implementing service virtualization, we were able to bring down their whole development pipeline and save up to 25 to 30% in the life cycle, development life cycle, as well as we were able to improve the quality of the product overall. They were able to reduce the technical debt, and also every release that the number of defects they were deferring every release came down significantly. In over 6 months, we were able to reduce it by 80%. And that was one of the big achievements for the senior leadership in that organization, because the quality of the product increased significantly, and they were able to get more and more success with their clients, with their consumers. So some of the facts and figures on service virtualization. Yes, we know that there is a need for access to this back-end dependencies, and they are not available so often. There is limited availability of these dependent systems, and because of that, a lot of organizations have started implementing service virtualization. One of the recent surveys done found that from 55% to 64% in 1 year, over 11% change in adoption of virtualized services within the organizations. And as we talked about the road ahead, so how do I use service virtualization as a business case for my bigger DevOps implementation? Once you have introduced virtualized services, you can very quickly move on to continuous testing. So the natural next step. The next step to that is doing continuous integration, doing a continuous deployment so that you can release a build to the next environment very quickly. And last but not the least, it would be the continuous monitoring. So you are providing feedback not only to your development teams, to your product implementation team, as well as your quality teams. That becomes, how you start adopting DevOps very quickly and start building the case from there on. So as a quick teaser, here are some of the products provided by CA that you can easily adopt for DevOps. We started with CA Service Virtualization for most of our clients. You could use release automation and CA's application test. CA today announced the service virtualization is also available in cloud environment, and also a lightweight that can be used from the Chrome browsers. So really great progress in that area and great advantages of using that. I would be happy to take any questions if there are.
What part of the process of development?
Sorry, I can't.
So the question is, what part of the development part is the more impacting in the business for service virtualization?
So the most important and the biggest benefit you will see is in the development cycle and the product quality cycle, because they don't have to depend on the backend systems. They can easily go and use these virtual services for automated testing and also for the development cycles as they're building the test. Okay, sorry, we can take it offline. Sure. Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you.